Yeah, they were all together.
Okay, let's
Okay, good afternoon. We're gonna start on time. How about that? Full order, planning commission, June 5. Public comment. Nothing. Roll call. We got everybody here. Who's here? Let's take a roll.
Okay, Ron Stanko,
Here.
Mike Hurd,
Here.
Tommy Can,
Here.
Eric Ostenchuck,
Here.
Albert Weinhofer,
Here.
Janet Barnett, here, Scott Miller.
Here. Okay, so, good start. Let's see some people. Item number 3, 1001 1015 Penn Avenue, Wade, West Charter School. Discuss the site plan and waiver request.
Yes.
Jim, you have something you want to tell us?
Sure, so everyone's not aware, it's directly across the street on Penn Avenue, prior customers bank building, it's owned by Commonwealth Charter Academy now. They are looking to, I guess, do a bunch of internal renovations and convert it to a, and correct me if I mistake any of your operational things,
Sure.
it's not on purpose, to an online charter school. So my understanding is that the staff on site will be limited to the teachers and administration with an occasional student and or parent coming to the property, but not on a regular basis. So those reasons again is because of that definition. It was determined some time ago, I think in 21, that this would actually not fall under a school district zoning use, that it would be an office use. So,
I can add to that quickly, just to say that determination was actually made roughly February, March of this year, by myself in conjunction with Chris Hartman after reviewing the building permit fit out plans to actually see how the space was gonna be used.
so it doesn't constitute a change of use, was the, basically the long and short of what I was saying there. If it went from true school, office to true school, it would be a change of use. So we had just some other comments on here of some plans, things that would need to be done, as part of the, whether it be a land development process or the site plan review as a building permit. We would have to see a landscaping plan for screening along the residential property lines that are adjacent to that. They're replacing the parking lot lightings, they'd have to show photometric plans that met all the ordinance requirements. They would need a sign permit, need to show us where outside dumpsters and trash enclosures would be. It doesn't look like there would be a stormwater requirement. They would probably qualify for a waiver. We may need some additional information to show that. The only really questions, and hopefully they can answer them for us, is we don't have an indication of the change in number of employees with the application, which would then, if that increased significantly, could have a traffic increase, and then sewer and water if significant additional employees. So I think maybe a good time to turn it over to you now to speak to the number of employees
Sure.
proposed.
We're proposed is about 75 employees. And there are existing 78 spots in the parking lot as it exists, and we're not changing that.
Do you know how many customers we had prior employees to?
I do not.
Okay.
I can see if I can find that out.
I believe it was 100, but if you knew off the top of your head.
I do not.
And this is 78 spaces,
Yes, sir.
and that would meet the zoning requirement for parking.
I mean, it's based off of the square footage of the building, so there's no change there.
And we would have said, since these would be classified as office employees, it'd be 10 gallons per day per employee. So we would have to have 25 additional employees over what was there to trigger needing an additional sewer EDU, which would, so I don't believe the Customers Bank only had 50 employees in that building. So I think they're all right on the sewer and water issue and wouldn't need any additional EDUs now that we heard the number.
The accounting guys had a lot more than that, right?
Yeah, when they were in there before customers, probably, they were probably smaller offices than what the bank put in for especially the branch section. So I think they're probably good on all of the things we just needed clarified. It would just, so they would be officially requesting, or they have officially requested in writing a waiver of the land development. process. And I would assume if we want to grant that, what we do it, and of course, they would probably agree to submit those landscape lighting and sign permit and dumpster location plans as part of that waiver with the building permit site plans.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to the land development plan, assuming the site extension are accomplished?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
any questions?
Yeah, what's the recommendation of the road manager?
To grant the waiver conditioned upon McCarthy Engineering's review letter and the outstanding items being submitted as part of the building permit.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 4. Windsor Street subdivision. Jim?
Yeah, we just put that.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Put that plan.
Yeah.
So this has been, John, aka Woodchopper's behind me representing the plan. They've been here a few times over the past 6 months with this, and I think at this point, most of the issues have been resolved. There's a couple waivers that they need.
Time extension.
Time extension. Time extension we need to accept, and then also, because that'll expire prior to council, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a few waivers, and then if you're so inclined to consider a conditional plan approval, will be the action items tonight, today. We used to do too many night meetings, like day meetings.
Whatever it is.
We can be bold enough to.
No, that, well, if you want, but I know you have those things to do. I know the fire marshal's comments were out, there's some outstanding, they've all been satisfied. The stormwater issues are relatively minor to clean up, I would think. Did you have any problems with any of that stuff?
No. Matter of fact, the only thing that we're really looking for today is the action on the 3 waivers. Number 1 waiver would be not to do any additional infiltration testing. Apparently, when M&A was using that for a storage facility site with their heavy equipment, they compacted the ground so hard that we hired Alan Madera. He's a sewage enforcement officer, owned Perks Envirotech Inc. We had him go out and do some probes and tried to do some perks, but the ground was that hard that the deepest that he could get was about 6 inches with the compaction. So therefore, he gave us a statement as saying it's severely compacted and therefore there'll be no infiltration on this particular site due to the former use of the property. So that's number 1 request of waiver. Number 2, to the rear of the building, all the roof leaders will be directed to the north or to the rear of the property. They'll be collected in some type of underground piping system because it's the easiest way in which, the only place in which to gather and collect the water. The water will then be dismissed and piped down towards the curb line. We're requesting a reduction in pipe size from 15-inch to the standard 4-inch so that we can get it through the curb line, so that water will just go right back into the street gutter once it's been held back and the increase, adjusted. And the final would be, I knew I should have worn my glasses. No, that's it. Those are the only 2
I thought there
waivers.
was only 2.
Yeah,
There was a
And then-
plan scale one that was previously granted by. the
that was
planning
previous.
commission. Yeah. You have any questions, because that's what I was looking for, where's the 3rd?
No, it was only 2. There's 3 items, but one was the action on the time extension that we're requesting. It was raised a question that minor incidental items have to be adjusted with the stormwater report and with the actual sanitary sewer design, because we're gonna need a grinder pump to collect all the sewage and then pump it up to the existing manhole that's in Windsor Street. That design has been shifted. The client went with Boyer Engineering, since we do not do sewage pumping stations. And so they are working on that. I'm supposed to get that completed design by the end of this week. Also, the stormwater will be final adjusted by Craft Engineering to make sure that all the comments have been addressed by McCarthy. So I need action, if I may request, action on the 2 waivers and the time extension.
Preferably individually, not collectively.
The waiver.
I'm sorry.
The waiver can be,
No, we typically do them separate.
They're on the agenda separately, just to.
yeah.
And what are the outstanding stormwater comments? Are they pretty minor?
It's pretty minor.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty minor, and then the agreement and the O&M agreement, as well as the escrow for the 10 years inspections that, for the borough does there. Some minor, just to make sure we can pass the 100-year storm through the property without flooding the house.
Okay.
It's important.
Yeah, they're really mostly minor comments,
Okay.
shouldn't be much to address, and the necessary stormwater agreements.
You're okay with the recommendation,
Yeah.
conditional?
Yep.
So 15 to 4 is not a big, that's just normal?
No, it's kind of, our ordinance is written kind of weird for that, because our ordinance requires you to take your roof leaders through the curb, to the gutter lines. Well, we don't, I mean, there's no 15-inch high curb, well, I hope not, anyway. But the way the ordinance is written, it says all storm sewer shall be 15-inch. Well, I think it kind of meant to be like in the street, going inlet to inlet for clogging, not we're talking about individual properties. So we tend to have that waiver a lot, that and the plan scale, which are on the list, and when the subdivision ordinance gets updated to be fixed, to be reworded, so we don't have to drag that, people don't have to request them.
Yes, it is.
All right, so, item C, motion to approve the waiver of the filtration issue as discussed. For the motion. to that
A
effect?
clarification on the motion, is it from 12 to 4 or 15 to 4? So 12 one place and 15 another?
I would defer to him.
It's 15.
I
before.
typed the agenda, so that might have been me having a fat finger
It's
and hitting
15 before.
2 instead of 5.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the issue regarding the pipe diameter. Wasn't that what you just mentioned? Or just-
You made the motion to expect the pipe diameter.
Yeah, that was the pipe diameter.
All right,
We
so-
have back up.
all right.
I think we approved the second one first.
Yeah.
Well, I meant the first one was first, but we moved to second. So we're back to the first one?
Yes.
The first one again. Okay, motion to grant the waiver regarding the infiltration issue as outlined by the engineer. All in favor?
You asking for a motion?
Yeah.
Motion
Motion approved.
Are you making a motion, Jerry?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good. Motion approved.
We need a motion for the extension.
Now we get to the extension,
Yes.
right?
I'll make a motion for the 90-day time extension.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all very much.
Would the planning commission at all be favorable to granting conditional preliminary plan approval subject to,
Final.
I'm sorry, final, subject to the remaining items in McCarthy review letters being addressed?
Is this a one-step review? Was that previously approved?
Preliminary was previously approved.
The preliminary plan was approved, this is
All right,
final.
so this
now.
was a two-step?
Yes.
Okay.
So we approve it based on the third item, which we can get later as well, with the extension, right? That would be-
Well, the time extension buys us between now and next week's council meeting. But then conditional plan approval would be approved by council. The remaining review items in McCarthy's letter get cleaned up between McCarthy and Mr. Hopper. And then when we have a clean plan, we sign, it gets recorded.
We
And
get
all
the
the-
agreements, the escrow, and all that stuff will get recorded with the plan.
You opposed to that, Mr. Hoffer? Okay, Robbie?
You're opposed to that?
Yes.
You're opposed to that?
No, I'm not. I'm like, what's he saying? I'm gonna nod my head yes.
Wrong
No,
answer in
we're
this
good.
case.
That would have been the first time in history an engineer presenting was opposed to getting his plan approved.
Okay, so in addition, we'll have to amend the agenda to include approving that motion as mentioned by Michelle. Do you have that, Michelle?
So moved.
Michelle has it. Do you have it, Melissa? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Questions? Nothing? All in favor? Approved. Good.
Okay, now we have to public comment, and then we have to vote on the motion.
Okay. All right, any public comment? Okay, so we'll go back to approving this extension.
No,
Conditions
Conditional
approval.
follow-up to
Yeah,
require.
conditional follow-up.
Subject to McCarthy's review letter dated June 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you again.
All right, I was surprised that none of you brought your dinner tonight, because if you have the list of the items in the next one, I figured you'd be here at least 5 days. So what's the theory on how we handle this? I understand that there's a zoning issue outstanding that needs to be considered before this can move forward. Is that sort of done, and we need to consider this, or are there questions that one side would like to ask or the other, or everybody from the planning commission can ask questions so we can figure out how I'm going to stay here before we're all exhausted?
So I should actually back up here a little bit. We didn't introduce Anderson from Jim's office to the planning commission. Anderson, hopefully as of council next week, will be appointed as the commercial zoning officer, since I don't have time to do everything anymore. So Anderson and I sat down and reviewed this plan together. I agree with all the, and she came up with all the comments, I agree with them. We do both feel there are some zoning issues that should be submitted on revised plans and addressed before the planning commission really get into the meat of any of the subdivision, the land development, stormwater management, other general comments. So with that said, Greg, I mean, you're here, you're obviously welcome to speak on behalf of the plan submission, but our thought would be submit a revised plan, clean up a lot of these review comments, and then discuss in depth with the planning commission at a future meeting.
Yeah, that's fine with us. So, when we looked at the plan, we expected to gain some comments. You know, we'd obviously like to work through some of the zoning concerns that were listed before we would actually make any application for zoning assistance. Other than that, you know, we're moving along our project. We've submitted to PennDOT. We feel that, you know, we'll be relatively successful with our access. And with that, with how the borough looks at things being business friendly, I'd just like to remind everybody that there is that phase 2 that's also contemplated with this location. That's not necessarily shown on this plan as we move forward. Other than that, we certainly received your comments and we'll work on it.
What's phase 2?
This property was connected over to, see where the lines are on the plan now?
Okay,
The other island, where
Yep.
the boiler house building is located.
Okay,
So that would be the next future plan to go along with that. And we've introduced this to some people here at the borough just to get a flavor for where we should go. And the client wanted to focus on this first because I think that's a much heavier lift to try to really relook and reevaluate that location.
it's vehicular access.
It is.
Okay,
It's already bridged, it's been improved for so much weight off of the different structural when our client had bought the property.
okay.
One of the issues though is there's not a secondary point of access to the island, which I foresee being a huge hurdle for emergency services.
Right. So this seemed like the easier one to kind of take off first, even though there might have been a few comments there, as the chairman noted. But we're happy to work through it with you.
So Jim, do you have anything that you'd like to interrogate the engineer?
I don't need to interrogate them. No, I mean, you know, we have concerns over whether PennDOT's gonna permit that access coming over the bridge, because there's not much sight distance there. And then the building is located on the site that Equus put the excess fill material from the VF North project, and all that material is contaminated. Because that's why it's in a pile, it can't be hauled off the site. I'm sure you guys knew that.
No, I've worked with him and he's worked with somebody else who I think said it was relatively clean, hence the letters, but we'll see how that goes forward. I wasn't the environmentalist
Well,
to come up with all that.
I'm just telling you, when
We'll work through that as we
Equus
get there.
did that work, that's why they asked to put that pile there, so they,
Yeah.
because obviously they can stockpile contaminated material on your site. As soon as you take it off your site, you now have to deal with the environmental issues, so.
Okay. We'll
That was,
certainly look at
that
it.
was during the construction activity that we were told that by Jack Yankee from Equus, when they got the approval for that, and then when they ultimately seeded that and stabilized it. Because at the initial time, we weren't sure, they asked for a stockpile, we allowed them to do that, and then it's also going to be permanent because we contaminated it.
Okay.
Just so you knew what we knew.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, I've heard it, but I'm waiting for the other documents of what I've been told as well.
Okay.
So we look for a motion to table.
There was
Well,
no motion on
yeah.
the agenda, knowing there wouldn't be a position to take any action
But
on
is
it.
there an application? So we're starting a 90-day clock.
The 90-day clock starts today.
Do you have an idea, one of the things I need to talk to the planning commission about is actually the currently scheduled July 3rd meeting, as Mr. McCarthy's office is closed that day, so we can meet, but we won't have an engineer to advise us, so my suggestion was gonna be to move the meeting to Wednesday, July 5th. If we indeed have one, the deadline for submission for that meeting would be this Friday. As of now, I have nothing pending. That's a big lift to get revised plans into the next 4 days.
You're probably not resubmitting by Friday, right? No.
So are there, I'm sure everybody came here with their agenda for this one. Does anybody have any questions that would need time to ask? You can ask those now while we're here.
No, but that was. He's the one who actually.
Well, Greg just said he won't be able to resubmit by Friday.
So Greg, just, if for some reason you're not able to submit by the deadline for the August meeting, time extension,
I think we'll be ready for those.
okay. And even,
So, what's your date in July for the August motion?
hold on a sec, I just sent it to, I think it was Jen in your office, but let me pull it. It would,
Nine?
no, it's the 7th, well, yeah, the 7th or the 10th.
Right. So it's July, that's beautiful.
End of day preferably on Friday, July 7th, which gives you about a month.
So you require 4 weeks?
2 weeks before the PC. But, well, that was 4. Then you went like 4, didn't you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just,
You went 4 weeks back from a Thursday or something, I think.
I was on the wrong month, so.
Yeah.
I didn't,
It's 4 weeks though, right?
3.
3,
Oh, it's only
3 weeks from the
so
PC.
it'd be
Okay.
4th,
The
28th,
17th?
Sounds right.
yeah,
Okay.
It's on the wall.
yeah. So I mean, as long as you think you're in a position to submit by that date,
Yeah,
you should be
okay.
good either way.
And if there's anything as far as traffic goes, as far as including any other studies, can you send those to me if anybody wants those?
I'm gonna look at you, Jim, and
Because I saw like the traffic study was a comment of what you would like to have. And we'll go ahead and get that prepared.
September 4th is
It's just what other intersections do you want to study? Because we'd probably study the one at Van Reed Park and this location. That's probably about where we would stop.
will you ask TBD that question?
I will. August 4th, oh, wait.
July.
I did the same thing you, I did the same thing you did. 17th, yes.
17th, we're good.
And then the 14th of August for September.
Yes.
And the zoning issue is.
We'll hopefully clean up between now and then, yes.
I mean, typically the policy of the planning commission has been to not really discuss any, other than make a recommendation if they need zoning relief, but not to discuss the plan until the zoning matters are resolved.
Is the hearing scheduled?
We don't know that they need one yet.
Okay. Got it.
Greg, are you tearing down the old current plant?
I don't think the client was looking to tear it all down. I think he was trying to reuse when that project comes forward, but, you know, that could be a 2 or 3 years out.
That's a hell of a building, structurally.
It is.
Windows,
He's rehabilitated other buildings here in the borough.
Right, any other thoughts up there at the other end?
No, the one thing, I don't know if you decided on today, but just what I want to think about is typically on the projects around this size require traffic studies, and Greg has been one or the other. In the past, if there was no specific traffic concerns of TPD or the planning commission or council, we've allowed them to do a fee in lieu of the traffic study, provided there was no concerns that anyone had for that area. So, not that we need to decide that today, but with, if Greg wants to get the study done, it may be a benefit for him to know that we have any feeling one way or the other, and obviously.
PennDOT would require something, right? Did you scope something with them yet there?
We had the scoping form in with him.
Oh, good luck.
That's optimistic.
Just the time lag.
But that's why we didn't provide a traffic
Okay.
study here, is because
Yeah,
you know I wanna do the scope, so it's good for both of us.
yeah.
I don't remember seeing the scoping guy. Did you send that to Greg? So scoping guy? Greg Richardson? I don't remember seeing that.
Probably not.
Okay. Well, maybe if you send that over, then that would at least start internally. Well, maybe Greg looks at that and says that's sufficient. And that would be the end of that.
Yeah, I'd like to see their scope comments before we
Me too.
have a discussion on it.
Well, if Greg sends it over, I'll email it to everyone in the planning commission so everyone can see the limits of the scope of study for the PennDOT each opinion. So we'll have that to, when you can't sleep, to read it.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
Eric will play some music for you.
Yeah.
All right, I guess, seems to be it, all right? Old business? Michelle, do you have your mouth is open?
No, I have something under new business, but not old business.
Old business? New business?
Thanks, Greg.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Under new business, we would need to amend the agenda if the planning commission is in favor of making a motion to move the July meeting, if it is necessary, to July 5th at 3:30, which is a Wednesday.
What day?
Wednesday, July 5th. As everyone checks their calendar.
We're not really anticipating anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're not anticipating there's gonna be a need to have a meeting, but in case something unexpected comes in between now and the end of the week, I'd rather confirm with all of you in person you're available than play that game by email.
I have a conflict. Everybody's gonna be away for the fifth. Anybody like to make a motion to move the, planning commission meeting to July 5th, Wednesday?
You have to make the motion to amend the agenda first.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'll make that motion. Give a second.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on that? It could last about an hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so. let's-
Public comment, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any public comment?
No, thank you for considering though.
Didn't I say that yet?
Yep.
I wouldn't have forgotten about that. Okay, so now we have a motion to, move the July meeting,
Yep.
to July 5th, Wednesday.
Make that motion.
Motion, second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Change your mind? Any questions? Public comment? No? Okay.
Michelle, I'm not
Okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm not available.
Go ahead, really good.
Got plenty of other things.
So I can move it on.
Brad, just something,
Yep, we're good.
we're good? No, we're on now?
Well, you gotta adjourn.
Adjourn? Okay,
So it's still at 3:30, right?
Correct.
meeting adjourned. Enjoy.